What's going on, everyone? It's Sweet V back from PIPB and AG Paintball. So got another quick maintenance take a look video at another new gun. Just recently sold out on my shop, but they've got on the layaway program, so it gives me the opportunity to grab it real quick and make a video for you guys. So here we go. We have a ball long Mark Victory. This is a V2 Victory. So this is actually the one I had picked up from the tech class out of Extravaganza this past year, and had some anno flaws, really big ones right on the side of the body. So right, went over to Bob and said, hey, is there anything we can do about this? Definitely a real stand-up move. He immediately took it right back, took it back with him personally from Extravaganza, gave it a fresh anno, and hooked us up with the new spool valve engine that he had made to go with the VCOMs, and sent it to us within 2 weeks. So big props to Blast, Bob Long, and we definitely appreciate it at AG Paintball, and we're definitely looking forward to doing more business with you guys in the year to come. So let's take this out of the box and get going. So here we go. It's a black and red V2 Victory. The T-Rex Victory is a lot of people like to call it. I'm just going to take a look at the rest of the box real quick. Let's take that top one off. So you've got your bag of spare O-rings right down there. Got the for a one-piece barrel, I think they're still really nice barrels. It's a 691. I think it's a little big, even, you know, coming for a super high-end gun like this. I don't mind as much the one-piece ness, but the 691 bore is a bit much for me. Excuse me. And then right under that, instructions. The top page is the the board instructions, and it just goes through and tells you everything you can do with the board. If you're looking for gun manuals and everything like that, that is located online on their website. Bob Long, is it boblongdirect.com now, or is it Bob Long Technologies? I can't remember. It's changed so many times over the years. So let's actually put this barrel back in here. That would be pretty useless for what I'm about to do. Come on now. There we go. And let's go ahead and just set this box aside right over there. Alrighty. So let's point this light a little more down at my tech mat and not in my face. That's a lot better. And alright, let's get going. First thing I'm going to do is take out the engine just because it's super quick. Just lift up and out the back. Let's put the gun just to the side here for a second. So right away, this has got a little bit of paint on it. That's gross. So yeah, here we go. This is the engine for the Victory. Really nice, simple, easy to get to. You know, the tip of the bolt just comes right out. It's sitting there on the rod, and you can just pull it forward, and it's just comes right off. It's nice and simple. It's really nice, easy to get to. I've got the pillow right there in the middle, nice Venturi style system. So we're just going to take everything off, and then we'll just give it a quick cleaning rundown. Let's see. This front can comes right off, and the engine itself and the spring. And so we're going to take this off, so that means I'm going to take this little back cap off, which means I need some Allen wrenches. And there we go. Come on now. I don't want to damage that back cap. Awesome, there's one. Ah, bloody magnets. And there we go, there's two. Get out of here, back cap. Screw one over there. Screw two over there. Alrighty, as we take that back cap off, You can detach the actual back cap with this piece in the middle. It's not necessarily not something you need to do. The only thing you really got to be mindful of is that if you pull this down, there's an O-ring. Let's see if we can get some better light on that. Yeah, it's not going to work. There's an O-ring that actually sits right in this pocket right here. I know it's hard to see. I apologize for the lighting. I'm working on it. But you want to make sure that's nice and greased. So other than that, that back cap is fine. And now that allows us to just pop that right out right there. So first off, we're gonna give everything a quick rub down. Paper towel. Get all these O-rings. Take the spring off the engine and make sure the engine's nice and clean. And the actual bolt tip itself. I can. Right on the inside there. And on the outside. Alright, so as most of you guys may have figured out over the last 50-something videos, I'm a big proponent of the hater lubrication stuff, which includes both the marmalade and the sauce. I'm going to be using marmalade today. So, I'm going to take a touch of this, and that's a bit too much of a big touch. There we go. Just make sure this is nice and done, since this is one of the most dynamic pieces in this bolt assembly. And that allows us to pop that back in. Like so. And these two O-rings that channel down through the body, right on the bottom there. You actually notice if you look at this back piece, it actually comes with two spares that are recessed right up on the top. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I'm assuming they're spares. I honestly have no idea what else they would be doing except for being spares, because there's nothing else there. There's no air channels or anything like that. There is no reason whatsoever for those things to be there except to be spares. But I think that's kind of cool. It's a neat place to keep them, to be quite honest, so you'll always know that they're there. So I'm going to be very careful not to get this down in the air passage, but I'm going to make sure there's just a tad bit on these O-rings down here, like so, and get rid of that excess that's hanging around there. Alrighty, so that is that, and we're going to grab the engine, put a little more. We're going to get the back of the engine right there. Right, you could actually take this out. I'm not going to. There's absolutely no point. This gun is so new. It's only been used 2 or 3 times. And I've actually done this greasing and cleaning process probably about 3 days ago, before I decided I was going to grab it for a video. So without the need to take it out, I'm not going to. So I'm going to make sure this outside is all good. And I can go ahead and just throw this spring back on the top of that engine there. And we can go ahead and put the whole engine back down. So all we need to throw back on is the back cap, obviously, that front cam, and the actual bolt tip itself. So your drivetrain system should be looking about this. This is what we've covered so far. The actual engine itself, the spring, the guide, and that back portion. With this front can here, you're going to want to make sure there is an O-ring on the middle, on the inside. There's also another O-ring on the inside here that's used for sealing, so you definitely don't want those to dry out or you're going to have some major leaking issues. Also, as well as not as important, but obviously still important, O-rings are always important, the two on the outside. So I'm going to hit this larger internal O-ring that's in the back of the can. Just make sure I get that nice and good. And I also want to hit this front one right here. smaller, but equally as important on the internal side. Definitely have a lot of friction. It's one of those dynamic O-rings. And so that's nice. And we didn't do the outsides yet, but I'm going to put this back on. So I don't want grease all over my hands while I'm trying to put this back cap on, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. Obviously the back and putting the back cap on is fairly simple. It might look pretty squarish in the back, but obviously if you look straight at this, this bottom piece is going to be a lot rounded, where this top is going to be flat. And you look at the back cap, and the back cap is going to be rounded as well, where the top will, you can't see the top from here because it's not out, but it is flat as well. And then the other big hint is that if you look at both what would be the top and bottom, if you couldn't even tell, you've got sets of O-rings on both sides. One is going to have air passages, one is not going to have air passages. The one that does not have the air passages is going to be on the top. So let's do the tedious process of putting this back cap on, which is kind of annoying with the magnet, but I think we'll survive. Both screws in, and let's get those down. Come on, magnet, don't give me problems today. There we go. Make sure those are good hand tight. Definitely want that O-ring in the back to seal. Don't want any leaks. There we go. So back cap is nice and on. Kind of rubbed off just a touch of the grease on this bottom too. Clean that up. Make sure there's nothing sitting right over those air passages. Don't want really grease flowing through your solenoid and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to throw a touch on these outside sealing O-rings in the front can. Alrighty. Put that down for a second. And I'm going to do just a touch on the bolt, because again I don't want too much grease getting into the breech itself. And that's going to start coating the paint, and then it's going to get all over paintballs, and it's going to get all over the inside of your barrel, and it's going to make paint go everywhere, and you're not going to have a good day. Yada 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 yada. So put the bolt back on, slide it back, and there we go. There's our drivetrain. And yes, the bolt is going to kind of wobble around like that. It's supposed to do that, so don't worry about it. So let's put that aside. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the regulator. Regulator just screws off. Don't roll away on me. So you've got you've got a seat and a shim stack that's actually sitting down inside the regulator right there. So what I'm going to do is just grab a nice pair of pliers, being very gentle, mind you, and grab it and pull. And then after you pull that top piece out, your shim stack will just kind of drop out. So like I said before, I just serviced this thing about 2 days ago. So I'm not going to take off this top O-ring that's really preventing the shim stack. As you can see right there, there's an O-ring that sits just on the lip right there, right above it, and that's what holds the shim stack right in place. But if you're doing your regular maintenance, you definitely want to get this off. Make sure your shims are nice and clean, free of dirt and debris. This is the first line of defense against stuff from the air system. Maybe it's in the tank or something like that, because it was in the fill lips that you filled your tank with or anything like that. This is the first line of defense to prevent stuff going into your gun. Granted, it's not made to be a defense against stuff going into your gun, but this is the first place it's going to end up. So you definitely want to make sure these are clean. But there's no reason for me to poke and prod and take this O-ring off, because I just did the shim stack. So because really taking this off, it worries me about how much damage I'm going to do to it with a pick, even being very careful, and I don't want to replace it for absolutely no reason. But once you do, if you take your shim stack off, man, I keep dropping this thing. Good thing it's not going on the ground. So the shims are all bent, concave, convex, whichever way they're gonna do kind of one of these. And the order for the shim stacks is right on the bottom. There's a one single shim, and it is going to be cupped down towards the bottom. And then after that, you've got 3 sets of 2. So after that first cup one, each set of 2 is going to be an upside down cup on the bottom and a right side up cup on the top. So it kind of forms this bubble, so it's going to look like this as a pair. And you're going to have 3 of those pairs, and then right up at the top you're going to have another upside down cup. So that is the proper factory way to put these shims back in. So other than that, definitely make sure that the down inside the tube itself is nice and clean, which it is, because I just cleaned it the other day and it hasn't been used since. So I'm going to take and drop these shims right down back in. So with this, obviously you want to make sure this is nice and greased, which it does have a little bit of stuff on it. And I'm going to go ahead and recoat that just because. Alright. And pointy end up, right down. And you can just kind of push that down into place right on top of the shim stack. So the other piece with the regulation system going into the gun that you want to see, you'll see this funny looking, almost looks like it's a brass piece with a spring on top kind of poking out of the regulator there. See that? And so what you want to do is unscrew that and take it out, and there's an O-ring that seats right under it that you definitely want to make sure is in good condition and has proper amount of lube, or else you're going to have some leaking issues. So I'm going to be very gentle with these pliers, and it just unscrews, and you'll be able to see a little bit better right when I take it out right here. So if I turn the gun upside down, if I hold the gun upside down, that piece sits just like that with the gun upside down right here. Sits and screws into the gun just like that. And you'll see this little pin with the spring is poking out of the bottom of the gun. And if you look right at the bottom of that, it does have that one black O-ring right there. You want to make sure that's in nice and good condition and give that a touch of lube. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to go ahead and screw this back in. And I'm going to use the pliers to finish off on tightening it, just because I really can't get my fingers in there to get the good hand tight that I want. I'm not going to go too bad with it though, still kind of keep it nice and gentle. And then you can just take the rag and screw it right back on. Alrighty, so I'm going to take these grips off real quick, and then we can see a look at the inside of the frame. So let's get these grips off first off. And that is the wrong Allen key. That is not helpful at all. 1. Come on now. 2. And 3. I'm going to go ahead and take off the other side just to make everything easier. 2. And 3. Alright, so these grips can come right off. I like these grips. They're very, very nice. Very good feeling in the hands. So there is a battery in here. We're going to go ahead and pop that out real quick. So as you can see, when you take it off, super simple on the inside. You know, there's not much there. The wiring is nice and short and exactly as long as it has to be, so there's no free floating wires all over the place. The board is nice and condensed. It sits right up there, and then the LCD and the OLED board are just its own little tiny board, but it's really nice and compact right there. So you can take the ASA off if you wish, which we can do. And it's just, if you look right at the frame, there's two screws, one that sits right there, and again, same deal right on the other side. So let's go ahead and just take those off real quick. Maybe if I had the right size Allen wrench, that would be helpful. I think I did. Maybe my Allen wrench is just stripped. Yes, that is definitely the case. The ball end of my Allen is stripped. Alright. Screw one. Come on now. Loose. I guess it's time for new Allen wrenches. And screw two. Alrighty. So that comes right off. And you'll see you can actually get the rest of it off. There's a screw right down there, so you can get at the rest of it, take this off, take the internals out and stuff like that, but we are not going to do that. What I am going to do though is make sure the airline, both on the ASA and on the bottom of the gun, are nice and clean. And if you look at the ASA, you'll see floating right on the top of it. If you look down it, I know it's all black so it's hard to see, but if you look right down there where the air passage is, there's an O-ring that sits right there. So you want to make sure that's not super dry, but you definitely don't want to leave a bunch of grease to go floating into your solenoid in your system though, so we're going to be careful with that. So we can just leave that aside. And I'm going to take the eye covers off right now. And you definitely want to be careful with the eye covers because there is a little baby tiny spring. That little guy right there, that's on the detent. And absolutely want to make sure our detents are clean. Make sure it's going to come out as well. That would be good. I'm just going to pop it out from the other side. Come on there. There we go. So there's eye cover one. So stock, I'm pretty sure this only comes with the 2 CIs. Yes. Yep, the 2 CIs still. And obviously they are upgradable to the 4 CI system. And screw 2. Again, being super careful with the eye cover, which has gross nasty stuff all over it. And there's our other little baby spring. And I have lost one of these before. It was not fun trying to find it. Fortunately I did. It took quite a while though. I was not happy about it. I've been super careful ever since then. And there's the second detent. I'm just going to go ahead and clean these off while I got them out real quick. Make sure it's all free of paint and dirt and debris. Clean out the inside of that one. That's kind of nasty. I'm not going to take the eyes off. Actually, I take that back. With the paint that I saw on there, it's probably a good idea to take that board. Maybe not disconnect the eye wire, but at least lift the board real quick and see if there's any paint on the covering the eye sensor itself. And for that, breaking out my handy dandy die tool. Alrighty, there's that little screw for the eye board. Oh yeah, it's definitely a good thing I took that off. There's a little piece of a paint shell. Take that out. Gotcha. And get rid of some of the residue that's sitting down there. Alrighty. So I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall this eye board. And the screw. Die tool. Screw. and screw back in. So if you're doing this with this screw on the eye board, definitely be careful. Obviously you're putting metal right onto a circuit board. You want to just do nice, easy hand tight. You don't want to damage that circuit board, or else you're going to have to get new eyes, which is no bueno. And let's take off the other side real quick. Screw. Come on there. There's the board. Wipe off that eye sensor. Get that last little residue that's down there. Alrighty. Butter. Put the screw right into the breech. Good job. Screw back in. Die tool. Turn screw. Finish job. Beautiful. Alrighty. So, let's take off this frame real quick. Right side of the Allen wrench would help. And I'm going to go nice and slow back and forth on both, since they're recessed into the frame. And the back one. I'm going to undo these wires right here for the eyes and the solenoid. Alrighty, so here's both the frame screws before they go flying. So you see on the frame screws, the front one slides into that this little metal piece right here. It just sits there on the inside of the frame, as well as the back one. It's kind of recessed into the grip, but you can kind of see it right there. Yeah, there you go, right there. So my one warning when you take these off, because of the way they are cut and stuff like that, watch how close and how much you slide your fingers down on the edges of the top and the inside of the frame. They are very sharp. I haven't yet cut myself, but I probably came pretty close to doing so the first couple times I ever took these things apart. Just due to the fact that the spring on this trigger and putting it back in is a real pain, I am not going to do it because there's no reason to. If you would like me to do it, I can certainly do it. It's just probably going to take about 5 minutes of sitting here fiddling with the spring in the right position just to get it. And honestly, I don't want to have you guys watching me fiddle with the spring on a trigger for 5 minutes for no reason. So, the trigger is nice and good how it is, and I'm not going to mess with it. So if you look on the top of the frame right there, right next to the trigger, you'll see that little black hole right there, and that O-ring right on the top. That's the air passage, so you definitely want to make sure that O-ring is nice and good to go. So I'm just going to take a touch and make sure that O-ring's good. Again, I'm going to get out some of the excess that's sitting on the inside of it, because I don't want that much stuff going into the noid and the air system. Alrighty, other than that, the inside of the frame looks pretty immaculately clean. So if we take and look at the bottom of the gun, you'll see right between, if you look just above the solenoid right here, again, you guys probably can't see because it's all black, but there's another hole in an O-ring right here. That's where the air system actually goes into the body of the gun. So again, make sure that one is nice and good to go. Alright. So as far as the noid and everything else goes, I'm not going to take those off. There's absolutely no reason to. You shouldn't. If they're not broken, do not take them off. There's no reason to. This is a personal recommendation from Bob Long himself, as it should be from any company that makes guns. If the solenoids are not broken, don't touch them. Um, you know, it's just even most companies even make it so you can't get into them yourself. You need special tools and all kinds of stuff. Planet is the biggest one with that. The solenoids are purposely made that you cannot do anything to them. They are not serviceable, and so if they break, they have to get sent back to Planet Eclipse. And they do that because they don't want people messing with the solenoids, because you can severely damage the gun, and taking the solenoid off will actually void your warranty and stuff like that, because there's no reason to. They're very complex systems, and most people just should not be touching them. So if you take a look at this solenoid, I just think it's really cool. Take a look at the solenoid real quick. It probably looks pretty familiar for anybody who's messed with old guns, old Timmy shockers or anything. This is a Humphrey Noid. The Noids Bob's been using, he hasn't really changed the Noids he's been using in all of these years. I really like that. These Humphrey Noids are bulletproof. They very rarely fail. It's a tried, proven system. And I really like that he's using the same Noids in here. Obviously, on the outside of the Noid, and what it controls has obviously been upgraded throughout the years. But I think it's definitely really cool that he's using these old school Humphrey solenoids. I approve by far. So if you look at that and look at the frame, it's super simple. I mean, there's not much going on in there. Really, the biggest thing you're going to want to deal with is your engine. So that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and throw this thing back together. It's the exact reverse process. There's nothing special that I'd want that you guys probably need to really see or anything like that. So I'm not going to videotape me putting it back together, because there's no reason to. I'll just do that off camera real quick. There's nothing special or any tricks about putting this back together. It's the exact opposite of how you took it apart. So other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the Ego video, and I got another one coming. This time it's going to be the GO3, and it's really nice GO3. So you guys will see when I throw the video up there. And so again, on a personal note from myself and AG Paintball on this specific victory, huge props to Bob Long. Really appreciate it, taking care of us like that. So that's about it, guys. Get back to you when I get back to you. Take it easy.